Welcome to the Twisted Pint Tavern. Today we're visiting r/AskReddit to answer, D&D Players of Reddit, what was your most WTF moment? New player who only cared about creating chaos. Every NPC and PC were targets. He would get so peeved. The last time he played with us, I stopped him from trashing an in-game wedding between NPCs. It was a reward for a particularly challenging section of the story. The other players were pissed and he reacted by trying to PvP. I wouldn't let him do that either. He freaked out and slammed the table, insisting we all didn't know how to play and much more. After a 10-minute yelling match, we all told him to leave. He left, and I rewound the session with his character leaving the party. Now look, I'm the kind of guy to say you should try to work out a problem before just kicking someone out of the game, right? This is an exception. This is definitely an exception. This dude's constantly creating chaos and problems, then blaming other people saying they don't know how to play D&D. Dude, it sounds like you're the one who just doesn't know how to play at this table, so probably go. When the Barbarian player accidentally murdered his entire team, then failed every insight check and died to an arrow in his face. So how do you accidentally kill your entire team? I had my players roll to see if they hit, and I used the Dex mod. He got a 1 and his Dex mod was -1. So he accidentally killed the rogue, and then his other party members got low on HP from the enemies before being killed by the Barbarian. They kept failing rolls. Okay, so there's a lot of debate online if you should use Nat 1 penalty rolls and whatnot, and I come from playing in older editions initially, and we liked using those a lot back then, so I could see the appeal, but it was never, you kill your ally, and in newer D&D, they just don't have as much of a place as they once did, so you don't see them very often. This is why, okay? Like, I'm not gonna just like throw shade at every DM that's in one of my videos or something, but if you're having one of your characters kill off the other characters and the other people aren't like wanting that to happen, that's kind of a dick move. All right, 2 stories. One buddy played a monk class and we were fighting a dragon. This crazy mofo jumped on the dragon's back and when it was real high in the air, rolled a nat 20 to grapple its wings so it couldn't flap them. Killed a dragon with gravity. So it's one strong monk. Another buddy played a half ogre, dumb as a box of rocks. He finds an amulet for Tiamat, and he's the only one that knows what it is. Issue is, Bumbo doesn't speak well. He just shouts his name, so he couldn't tell us what the amulet was. We just thought he found something shiny he liked. This was years ago, 4th edition Eberron. The GM had been gearing us up for a big dungeon crawl that he was basing off of a movie title. Instead of snakes on a plane, it was Yuan-ti on an airship. Our job was to go into this enormous flying fortress, essentially a 3-story mansion that some noble kept as a 24-hour party boat and clean house, as it had been invaded and taken completely over. The boat was docked, 2 guards at the boarding platform. Can we talk to them? Negotiate? I don't think so. I mean, unless any of you speaks Abyssal. And the druid raises his hand. I speak Abyssal. He'd chosen it specifically because it seemed like the least useful one to pick. He was just that kind of person. Well, okay, roll diplomacy. Nat 20, of course. So the druid's player was on the spectrum, right? Was an incredibly logical and literal person. He thought for a second and laid out this very, very thoughtful argument. I don't even really remember the details of it. This was over a decade ago. I just remember being awed. It had something to do with the nobles' connections and the military. He was basically trying to convince the Yuan-ti that it was actually in their best interest to leave. What I do remember was the GM's reaction, which was to grit his teeth and say, "That's entirely reasonable." That's how our druid defeated an entire 3-story dungeon without any of us even drawing steel. This guy we played with was so good at control rolling a die, he was like, and if I land on a 12, I can do double damage, and rolled a 12. And we all thought he was cheating and made him use different dice each time, and he kept rolling a 12, and we all were just dumbfounded. And I shit you not, I said if you can roll an 11, you can have my number. And he rolled a fucking 11. And that, kids, is how I met your father. During an ambush, I rolled a nat 20 to convert the attackers to my religion. Man, it must have been quite the sermon to convince people attacking you to join your religion, but hey, congrats on pulling it off. I wasn't the DM for this, I was another player. The most campaign-ruining thing a player did was befriend the big bad. She gave him a friendship bracelet and rolled 2 nat 20s in a row to convince him to be her friend. Today, we had a session and the same player, although playing a different character, pulled another weird stunt that actually worked. We killed some devils, then the devil's boss showed up and was like, "Who killed my minions?" And she pointed in a random direction and said, "They went that way!" And she got like a 26 on deception, so we just skipped the boss fight. To be fair though, the whole "they went that way" thing would probably work in a lot more situations than people realize. We were fighting a bear in a cave, and after we killed it, the barbarian sorcerer covered himself in bear shit to boost his intimidation. He still hasn't washed it off. Would that really boost your intimidation, or would that be more like, let's just get this conversation over with so the shit-covered guy can leave the room? Near supposedly final boss main villain mastermind of all shit we were fighting, our party faced a normal green dragon. I thought it was weird for the storyline, but whatever. After a turn of our party, each one attacking violently, the dragon disappears, and a female elf totally fucked up appears in his place. So it was a trick from the evil dude to make us kill an elf goddess or something like that to complete a ritual to evoke the big evil god dude he was trying to summon. We were like, seriously, dude? So things like this can be compelling plot points to a degree, but they're more like for a book, you know, because this is the kind of thing that story-wise, hearing about it, it's like, ho, that's crazy, right? But then when you're at the table and you're experiencing it, it just feels like shit. This next story is one of mine, and it happened in the first and last session of a campaign. This what the fuck moment comes from way back when I was brought into my first 3.5 game. One of my coworkers really wanted me to join, and I finally said yes. Well, first session in, we're going through this weird magical forest with a bunch of like sentient plants. One of them is some weird Venus flytrap-like monstrosity with plant tentacles. That creature promptly snatched my character without a save and held them in a, shall we say, compromising way. I didn't have a chance to counter any of this, and they went into great detail describing the scene and implied a lot of very, shall we say, animated stuff was about to happen. I was, obviously, unhappy with the situation, and everyone at the table was very uncomfortable. While trying to defuse said situation and punch us into combat, I rolled to hit. Nat 20. Now, back in 3.5, a lot of DMs used an instant kill house rule when confirming crits. If you crit, you roll to confirm it as usual. If when confirming you got another crit, you roll to confirm that one. If you did, you instantly killed the monster. Would rarely ever come up, but felt awesome when it did. So I rolled that nat 20. They say I have to confirm it. Another nat 20. They groan and tell me I have to confirm that one. A third nat 20. So when being dangled in front of this monster, I just killed it outright, and my character avoided needing therapy. And we didn't meet for a second session. Well, that's gonna do it for this video. I hope none of you were scarred too much, but if you do have any of your own WTF moments, feel free to leave them in the comments. There's a lot of these out there, so we'll probably do a part 2. And who knows, some YouTube comments might make it in there. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, subscribe, and click that bell. And do yourselves a favor, avoid weird magical forests. Some weird stuff goes on in there.